Close your eyes for a moment, dear soul, because what happened last night wasn't just drama. It was a divine breakthrough, a shift you didn't even know was unfolding. While you were minding your own path, something intense was erupting in a space you couldn't see, a space where your name was spoken with power and truth, once buried, exploded into the open. Because yesterday, she lost control. She wasn't expecting him to say it, not in front of her, not with that much certainty, but he did. He looked her in the eyes and said, "It's always been them. They're the one. 100%. And in that moment, everything broke. All the pretending, all the silence, all the games. And now, nothing will be the same again. The angels are whispering that this wasn't just a fight. It was a soul-shaking realization, a divine interruption that's pushing destiny back on track. They thought they were winning, that by now you would have been erased from his mind, that whatever feelings he once had for you had already turned to ashes. But yesterday changed everything, because the moment your name was mentioned, his entire energy shifted. Something inside him snapped, or maybe finally woke up. The third party, who had been clinging tightly to control, suddenly saw what she had been trying to ignore for far too long. He doesn't love her. He never truly did. And when he defended you, not just with words, but with the way his whole spirit stood up for your truth, it shattered the illusion she was living in. That argument wasn't just about you. It was about truth. And truth doesn't back down when it's spoken from the soul. She could sense it, not just in what he said, but in what he didn't have to say. His silence spoke volumes. His eyes, they were looking into memories she would never understand. She accused, she yelled, she reminded him of everything she's done for him. But none of it mattered, because all he could think about in that moment was you, the way you made him feel seen, the way you never begged for his love, but offered yours with purity and patience. And that's when he said it. You don't get it. She's not just someone from my past. She's the only one who ever really saw me. And I'll never stop feeling that. Her heart broke. But it was his truth. And sometimes, truth is the most painful weapon of all. And maybe, just maybe, the universe needed her to hear that, because until now she believed you were just a phase, a mistake, a ghost he'd eventually forget. But yesterday, when he stood there defending your name like a sacred vow, she realized she could never compete with what's real. He told her, what I felt for her, it wasn't temporary. It wasn't a game. And I know that deep down, I was the one who messed it up. But no matter how far I go, I always feel her in my soul. That admission. It wasn't about guilt. It was about clarity. And when a soul speaks its clarity aloud, it changes everything around it. In the days ahead, he's going to reflect even deeper, not just about the fight, but about why his heart reacted that way when your name came up. Because no one screams in defense of a memory unless that memory is still alive in their heart. No one chooses conflict unless they're trying to defend something sacred. And right now, you are still that sacred presence within him, the one he pretends to forget, but never actually can, the one he walks away from, but always circles back to, emotionally, spiritually, energetically. But if this message has already begun to stir something deep within your spirit, let me know with a comment below. Did this resonate with your situation? Your intuition will guide you. And don't go anywhere just yet, because the next part will reveal how this fight might actually trigger a new chapter for your connection. Stay tuned. After that intense exchange, silence filled the room like smoke after a fire. She left the space, not just physically, but emotionally, because when he said those words, when he looked her dead in the eye and spoke your truth, it wasn't just a fight. It was a breaking point. Something in her heart knew it could never be the same again. She may have shouted, demanded, accused, but what truly cut her the deepest was the way his voice softened when he said, "Your name." That wasn't anger. That wasn't regret. That was reverence. He spoke of you like someone who still holds the key to something sacred within him. And for the first time, she felt it in her bones. He never truly left you emotionally. His body may be here, but his heart, it's still there, with you. He didn't defend you out of obligation. He did it because in that moment, something snapped him back to clarity. He realized he's been living in an illusion, surrounded by noise, expectations, and distractions. But when your name came up, the fog lifted. Your memory brought him home, to his soul, to the version of himself he abandoned when he lost you. And it hit him hard. That love, your love, was never ordinary. You never played games. You never used manipulation. You loved him purely, even when he couldn't love himself. And now, that purity is haunting him, in a beautiful, heartbreaking way. That night, after the argument, he sat alone. No TV, no phone, no music, just silence. And in that silence, he heard your laughter echo. He remembered how you once said something about not forcing what's real. And suddenly, that phrase felt prophetic, because what he's forcing now, this connection with her, this routine, this performance, it's collapsing. And it's collapsing because the foundation was never real. You were the foundation. You were the one he built dreams with in his heart, even if he never said it aloud. And now, those dreams are screaming to be heard again. She knows this too. That's why she's restless. That's why she's starting to watch your social media, to ask indirect questions, to feel that creeping insecurity that only shows up when someone realizes they were never truly chosen. She feels it when he zones out, when he looks away during their conversations, when he avoids eye contact after saying he's fine, because she knows what fine looks like. And this isn't it. He's not fine. He's fragmented. And the glue that once held his spirit together was you. Somewhere inside, he's already begun writing that unsent message. You know the one that starts with, "I didn't know how to say this," and ends with, "But I never stopped loving you." He's writing it in his head, word by word, every night. He doesn't send it, not yet, because he's still afraid that maybe you've moved on, afraid you won't believe him, afraid that saying it out loud will finally make him vulnerable in a way he's never been. But still, he writes it, because he can't help it. You're the chapter he keeps returning to, no matter how many times he's tried to close the book. And something else is happening too. Your energy? It's stronger now. The spiritual bond between you two is waking him up in subtle but undeniable ways. He's having dreams he can't explain, seeing your name in places it doesn't belong, feeling waves of emotion during moments of stillness. He may not understand it logically, but his soul remembers. His soul is calling out for reconciliation, for truth, for you. So if you're reading this, take a moment and breathe. You didn't imagine your connection. You didn't overthink it. What you gave was real. And now, even the universe is rearranging things, shifting timelines, triggering confrontations, stirring hearts, because your story isn't over. It's transforming. And this transformation, it started the moment he said, "She's 100% real to me." That was the crack in the mask, the beginning of the unraveling. If this part touched your heart, let the angels know in the comments. Did your intuition already sense something had changed? Your voice, your truth, and your presence here matter more than you know. Keep listening, beloved, because the next part reveals the signs that he might reach out sooner than you think. Last night changed something permanent. He didn't just defend you, he claimed you. Even if you weren't there to hear it, even if his voice cracked a little when he said it, even if the room fell silent and heavy with judgment, he said it anyway. She's not just someone from my past. She's the only one who ever knew me for who I truly was. Those words didn't just bruise the third party. They broke her illusion. And you, without even realizing it, became the standard he's still comparing every new connection to. Not out of nostalgia, but because no one's ever matched the depth, the calm, the chaos, the wholeness you brought into his life. You see, when people argue, they often say things they don't mean. But he said something he meant for years, but never had the courage to speak aloud. And when he finally did, it came out like a confession he couldn't hold back anymore. His truth came out, not in rage, but in raw vulnerability. And that terrified her, because she saw it too, the way his eyes softened, the way his energy shifted, the way something in his soul seemed to wake up at the mere mention of you. That wasn't a slip. That was his soul stepping forward. And it shocked everyone in the room. Since then, nothing's felt normal for him. Conversations with her feel forced. Plans feel hollow. The laughter doesn't hit the same way anymore, because now there's an echo of you in everything. He goes to sleep hearing your last words, wakes up wondering if you still think about him. And each moment in between, he spends replaying memories, not just the sweet ones, but the hard ones too, because even the pain he felt with you felt more alive than the numbness he feels now. Her anger has become quieter, but sharper. She watches him more closely. She checks his phone more often. She pretends she's fine, but her silence is filled with accusation, and he knows it. He feels the tension. He knows the foundation they're standing on is crumbling, because it wasn't built on love. It was built on distraction. And now, with your name echoing through his mind and heart, he can't pretend anymore. Not to her, not to himself, not even to God. A few days ago, he started pulling away. Not out of cruelty, but because he finally realized something. He can't give her a heart that still belongs to you. He can't look her in the eyes and lie anymore. And no matter how long it's been, no matter how much he's tried to move on, the truth keeps surfacing. You weren't just a chapter. You were the book. And now, he's desperate to reread every page, to understand where it all went wrong, and how he can return to what felt real. He's been praying in secret, asking for signs, hoping the universe will give him some way to reconnect without ruining everything again. And what's strange is, he's starting to receive answers. Through music, through dreams, through people bringing your name up in unexpected conversations. He's learning that the bond you shared wasn't just emotional. It was spiritual, sacred, written into his soul before either of you were ready to carry it. And maybe that's why it's been so hard to forget you. Because you weren't just someone. You were the mirror that reflected back his truest self. And now, without that reflection, he feels lost, like a ghost walking through a life that no longer fits. And though he hasn't reached out yet, he's rehearsed it 100 times. In the shower, in the car, in the moments between sleep and waking. He's imagined what he'd say, how you might respond, whether you'd still smile the same way when you hear his voice. He wonders if your life is peaceful now, if you've found someone who treats you right, and it eats him up inside because he knows you deserve that all along. And yet, a selfish part of him still hopes you're waiting. Not because you owe him anything, but because he knows if the two of you had another chance, this time he wouldn't run. He wouldn't hide. He wouldn't choose fear over love. Not again. So, beloved soul, if you're sensing his energy again, if your dreams have been stirred, if songs have started hitting different again, you're not imagining it. The energetic cord was never cut. And now that he's finally spoken your name again, this time not in secrecy, but in sacred truth, the angels have begun their work. Divine timing is aligning. And soon, there may be a knock, a message, a moment that brings you both face to face, not as broken people, but as souls finally ready. Benefits what and do you feel in your spirit right now? Could his heart still be tied to yours? Drop a comment below. And let the universe bear witness to your clarity. He hasn't slept properly since that night. The weight of what he said, of what exploded out of him without filter, echoes louder in his mind than any argument or apology could. Not because he regrets defending you, but because it forced him to face everything he's been suppressing. The mask he wore for months, maybe years, cracked. And behind it, a man who never stopped choosing you in silence. A man who spoke your name out loud in front of someone who never thought she'd hear it. And once it was said, it could never be unsaid again. She tried to laugh it off at first. Tried to act like he was confused, emotional, drunk, but deep down, she knew. That wasn't intoxication. That was revelation. That wasn't impulsive, that was inevitable. Because no matter how much she gave, how tightly she clung, she could never become the space you occupied in his heart. You didn't force your place there, you were etched into it. Like a sacred carving done before time began. And now that she knows, everything feels colder between them. The warmth has faded. The silence between conversations has grown louder. And she's started asking questions she doesn't really want the answers to. Last night, he sat alone in the car for over an hour after dropping her off. Not to cry, but to feel, to remember, to surrender to the waves of regret that keep crashing into him. He stared at his phone. Your number still saved, your messages still unread, your last scene still memorized in his mind. And he whispered your name like a prayer he wasn't sure he had permission to say. Because even now, he wonders if the universe still grants miracles. If love once lost can be found again. If two hearts can meet after all the wounds, all the delays, all the detours. He hasn't told anyone else what he's planning. Not yet. Because this isn't about attention. This isn't about proving a point. This is about redemption. About returning. About finally admitting that he didn't just lose you. He lost a part of himself when he let you go. And no matter how much noise he surrounded himself with, distractions, dates, drama, nothing silenced that ache, that quiet longing for a love that felt like home. There's a box under his bed, one you probably don't remember. It holds pieces of you, pictures, notes, little things you left behind. He opened it last night, for the first time in ages, not to grieve, but to remember. To remind himself that the connection you shared wasn't imagined, that it was real, that it was worth fighting for. And maybe, just maybe, it's worth rebuilding. Meanwhile, the third party feels the shift. She feels the door closing, not because he's cruel, but because he's honest now. For the first time in a long time, he stopped pretending. And that scares her. Because the truth is, she always knew there was someone else in his heart. She just didn't think he'd admit it. But now that he has, now that he's looked her in the eyes and said, "You deserve someone who's all in, and I'm not," the illusion is gone. And you? You may not have seen any of this unfold. You may be miles away, busy with your own healing, your own growth. You might even be wondering why you're thinking about him again, why dreams are getting vivid, why you're waking up with a strange mix of peace and longing. It's because your soul is sensing the shift, the energetic wave that was sent out the moment he said your name again, the ripple effect of a truth finally spoken. The angels are guiding you right now, not just to wait, but to prepare. Because what's coming isn't just an apology. It's not just a reunion. It's a complete realignment of destiny. A sacred return. A healing that comes not in words, but in actions, in presence, in eyes that no longer look away, in arms that don't let go this time. And maybe you're not sure if you even want it anymore. That's okay. Healing gives you that choice. But if you feel a pull, if something inside you softens at the thought of him finally showing up, not as a broken version, but as the man you always knew he could become, then know this. It's not fantasy. It's not false hope. It's divine timing. And that door, it may open sooner than you think. Tell me this, dear soul. If he came back, not for closure, but for clarity, not to finish the story, but to begin a new one, would your heart be ready? Type, "I'm open to divine reunion" in the comments, if your spirit is saying yes. He remembers the first time he realized he was truly in love with you. Not the butterflies, not the spark. Those were just the introductions. What he remembers is quieter. It was the way your silence spoke to him more than anyone else's words. It was how you could just sit with him in chaos or calm, and somehow he felt seen without having to explain himself. And now, in your absence, that quiet presence is what haunts him the most. No argument with a third party could replicate that. No forced affection could fill that sacred void. He finally understands now. There is love, and then there is divine love, and only one of them survives storms. The family sees it too, the ones who once cheered for his current relationship, who perhaps thought he had moved on. They're watching him unravel, slowly, privately. They hear the edge in his voice when her name comes up. They sense his hesitation when someone casually mentions the future. And just recently, someone, maybe a sister, maybe a cousin, said your name out loud in front of him, just to test, just to see. And he froze, not in anger, in reverence, because even your name carries more emotion than anything else in his present reality. The third party caught it too. That micro-expression, that pause, that distant look in his eyes when your energy was felt in the room. She confronted him. She wanted answers. But when he finally spoke, it wasn't to explain or apologize. It was a confession. It was one that shook her, not because he was cruel, but because he was clear. He said, "I can't give you what I never gave her, my whole heart." And just like that, everything shifted. The house felt colder. The connection felt transactional. And for the first time, she knew. He was physically present, but his soul had already returned to where it belonged. And where is that beloved soul? It's in the quiet moments where he remembers the shape of your laughter, in the memory of your fingers tracing healing across his broken edges. It's in the scent of your perfume that sometimes still lingers in old clothes he hasn't worn since you left. He keeps telling himself it's time to move on, but the universe keeps echoing your name through dreams, signs, numbers, songs, divine nudges that say, no, this isn't over. He tried everything. He distracted himself with busyness. He traveled, he worked late hours, he entertained conversations with people he didn't feel connected to, but no matter what he did, the stillness always brought him back to you, to the echo of your goodbye, to the way you used to say his name like it meant something, like he meant something. And now, as he sits with that echo, he's finally done pretending. But he knows he can't come back with empty hands. He knows it's not enough to show up and say, "I miss you." No. He's preparing something different. A letter, maybe. A message that won't just be words. It'll be truth. Vulnerable, trembling, raw truth. He wants to lay it all out. What he did wrong, what he never said, what he feared, and what he now sees. He wants to come with the intention of not fixing what broke, but building something new from the ashes. Something sacred, something aligned, something worthy of the soul connection you both always felt, but couldn't quite hold. And you? Your guides are already whispering to your heart, telling you to stay open, not because he's guaranteed to return, but because your healing deserves completion. Because your love story doesn't deserve to end in silence and confusion. It deserves peace. It deserves clarity. It deserves choice. And maybe, just maybe, it deserves another chance. The third party, she'll heal too. Her path will adjust. Her story will shift. Because this was never about villains or victims. It was about lessons, contracts, timing, and most importantly, awakening. Everyone involved is being guided to higher alignment now. And while it may be painful, it's also powerful, because you weren't just his lesson. You were his mirror, his compass. And now, as the dust settles, he finally sees the road that leads back to you, not as an escape, but as destiny. And now, something strange has been happening. Your person is dreaming of you again. But this time, it's not like before. Not fleeting, not fragmented. These dreams feel like memories, almost like lifetimes crashing into one another. In one, you're laughing together in a home you've never been in, but it feels like yours. In another, you're sitting beside each other, not speaking, but your souls are having the loudest conversation. He wakes up breathless, disoriented, heart pounding. He checks his phone like maybe you messaged. You haven't. And still, it feels like you were just there, in the room, in his mind, in his energy. This has been shaking him, because your absence isn't empty, it's loud. It follows him into meetings, shadows him in crowded rooms. People have started asking if he's okay. He gives the rehearsed answers, but deep down, he knows he's not. Not without you. Not anymore. The truth is, he thought time would fix this. Or that distance would dilute what he felt. That maybe someone else could take the edge off. But instead, time has become a mirror. And everything he sees now, every mistake, every missed opportunity, it all reflects you. Your connection is different now. It's not romantic nostalgia, it's spiritual pressure. It's destiny knocking with more urgency each day. The universe isn't allowing him to forget you, because forgetting would mean denying truth. And you, your soul, is a truth his heart cannot rewrite. That's why every attempt to move on feels hollow. Every forced smile fades too quickly. Every other hand he's held has only reminded him that it isn't yours. There's more. Recently, someone in his life, maybe a family member, maybe a close friend, brought you up unexpectedly. It wasn't planned, it wasn't dramatic, just a casual mention. But that one name, your name, dropped like thunder into his chest. They said something like, "You weren't like this when she was around." Worse, you've changed since you let her go. He didn't respond at first, but that night, he sat in his car longer than usual, thinking, replaying everything. The way you looked at him like you already knew his demons and loved him anyway. The way you'd noticed the sadness he tried to hide even before he saw it in himself. That memory undid him. That you saw him, truly saw him. And he pushed it away. Now your name isn't just a memory. It's a magnet, pulling him toward healing, toward responsibility, toward redemption. He's been rehearsing what he'll say to you. Not just "I miss you," but "I was wrong." Not just "let's talk," but "you deserve truth. You deserve peace. And if you still want it, you deserve us." He knows it won't be easy. He knows he'll have to earn back what he broke, but he's ready to do what he never did before. Fight, not for control, not for ego, but for love. You might feel his energy lately. Sudden waves of emotion. Random moments when your heart speeds up without warning. You think of him and instantly feel like he's right behind you. That's not imagination. That's spiritual tethering. That's the soul recognizing its mirror still glows, even across time and space. Your angels want you to stay open, not naive, but open. Because this isn't about repeating old stories. It's about rewriting them with consciousness, with clarity, with intention. This time, if he returns, it won't be as the boy who didn't know what he wanted. It'll be as the man who finally knows who he is. Because of you. And beloved, you've changed too. You're stronger now, wiser. You no longer wait. You align. You no longer beg. You attract. And that's why this is finally coming full circle. Because you didn't just love him, you healed for him. You grew for yourself. And now your souls are vibrating closer, tuning back into the frequency of purpose, not pain. Comment Amen if your heart has been sensing this soul shift lately. If you've been picking up on signs, dreams, chills, trust them. You are not imagining. You are awakening. There's something they haven't told anyone yet. Something burning quietly in the back of their mind ever since that fight. No one knows that after she stormed out, he stood still in that same room, completely silent, while the echoes of her words kept replaying in his head. She had accused him of hiding feelings, of defending you, of choosing you in ways he never admitted out loud. But the truth is, she was right. That entire argument wasn't just about jealousy. It was about truth trying to come up for air. And once she shouted your name, he realized he wasn't just trying to calm her down. He was protecting the only piece of his heart that still felt real. You. That moment forced him to finally confront the lie he had been living. Because in pretending you didn't matter, he had made everyone around him comfortable, but destroyed his own peace. And now, there's no going back. He can't unsee what her rage revealed. He can't unfeel what your name triggered in his chest. And most importantly, he can't keep you hidden anymore. Not from her, not from himself. And there's more. After that explosive moment, he didn't sleep that night. He went back through old messages, looked through memories he tried to bury, and for the first time in weeks, or maybe even months, he let himself feel all of it. The hurt he caused, the way he let distance build walls between you, the guilt of pretending he didn't care, just to fit into someone else's idea of how life should look. But in the stillness of that night, he knew the truth. None of it was real without you. Every smile felt hollow. Every day felt like a routine he was surviving, not living. And every time he tried to silence his thoughts, your voice came through like a prayer he didn't know he still remembered. That night broke something inside him, but it also built something new. The courage to finally choose honesty over habit. He's not proud of how things played out. There were so many moments when he could have spoken up, told the truth, ended the confusion, but fear held him back. Fear of what others would think. Fear of losing the approval of people who never truly saw his soul. But after what happened, after that confrontation, he realized something more painful than judgment. He realized he was losing you, and that was a loss he couldn't afford. So, if he's quiet right now, it's not avoidance, it's reflection. He's searching for the right words, not just to apologize, but to rebuild. To admit that you were always the one he kept tucked in the corner of his heart, even when he told himself to move on, because the truth is, no one replaced you. They only made him realize how irreplaceable you really are. And here's the part the angels want you to understand. This awakening wasn't just about him. It was about you, too. You've been growing in silence. You've been healing wounds that no one clapped for. You've been rising with grace through your own shadows. And now, you're not the same version of yourself that he left behind. You're stronger, clearer, more rooted in your worth. So, if he comes back, and he will, it won't be to the same person. He'll be coming back to someone who no longer needs his love to feel whole, but who can welcome it only if it's true. And that shift, that's divine alignment. That's what this journey was always about. There is something about the silence that follows a storm, that quiet space where everything feels suspended, time, emotions, even breath. He's sitting in that space now, not because he's running from the chaos that unfolded, but because he's finally starting to see it for what it really was. A divine interruption. A moment so raw, so honest that it cracked open every wall he had built between his truth and the world. And in that crack, something powerful slipped through. A memory of you. A moment when you smiled at him with eyes that saw his soul, not his performance. A moment when you held space for him, not his mistakes. And suddenly, everything that seemed important before doesn't anymore. Not the opinions of others, not the pressure to conform, not even the guilt, because now, for the first time, his heart is louder than his fear. What's unfolding is bigger than just a breakup or a fight. This is about soul lessons, about karmic cycles that were destined to repeat until someone finally had the courage to break them. And believe it or not, this fight, this explosion, was the trigger. The universe knew he wouldn't wake up without disruption, that he needed to lose control to finally start seeing clearly. And now that the dust is settling, he's realizing that what he thought was a loss was actually a redirection. Because while he was busy trying to keep everything neat and controlled, he was losing the one thing that ever felt real: you. And that realization is not just haunting him, it's transforming him. He's starting to piece things together now, the way you used to notice the things no one else did. The way you saw through his "I'm fine" and heard the ache behind his silence. The way you challenged him to be better, not by demanding it, but by showing him what love without conditions actually feels like. And that kind of love, it doesn't vanish. It lingers. It waits. It teaches. And in his case, it woke him up. That's why he hasn't reached out yet. Because this time, he knows half-hearted words won't do. He knows you deserve more than confusion wrapped in affection. He knows you're not waiting to be rescued. You're choosing whether you still want to open your heart to him at all. And that shift in power, it's sacred. It's the very reason why everything feels so intense right now. He's likely talking to someone about you again, not to vent, but to process. Because this isn't about blame anymore. It's about understanding. It's about him finally seeing the role he played in creating the distance, the misunderstanding, the silence. And even though he might not say it directly, yet deep down he knows. You were never the problem. His fear was. His hesitation was. His inability to choose love over pride was. And now that the mirror has been placed in front of him, he can't turn away. He sees your face in places he didn't expect, hears your name in songs he once ignored, feels your energy in moments that should have felt ordinary, but don't anymore, because his heart knows. You're not just a chapter. You were the whole book he never finished reading. And here's where your angels step in again, not to promise anything, but to remind you, what's meant for you will always find a way, even if it takes time, even if it gets messy, even if the road back looks nothing like the one that led you here. What matters is that your heart stays open, not to old patterns, but to divine alignment, to sacred connection, to the kind of love that doesn't just soothe you, it sees you. And right now, that love is circling back, not because you begged for it, but because your growth silently called it home. Servant, yes, if you feel this, was already written in the stars for you. Somewhere in a quiet room, your person sits with a mind that won't stop spinning, not because they're confused about what they feel for you, but because they've finally stopped running from how much. It's overwhelming now, the way your energy lingers in their atmosphere. They can feel your absence more than ever, not just like something missing, but like an entire world gone silent. And what's even more deafening is a truth they never thought they'd have to say aloud. I still love them. I never stopped. That realization has shifted something within them. Not just emotionally, but spiritually. It's forcing them to confront a version of themselves they were too scared to face when you were around. The version that sabotages love to avoid being seen. The conversations around them now feel different. They're more aware. They're noticing how others speak about love and loyalty, and they can't help but compare. Because no matter how much they try to pretend, no one makes them feel the way you did. No one disarmed them with just a glance. No one made their soul feel so safe. And now, after everything, they're beginning to realize that letting you walk away wasn't just a mistake. It was the moment they stepped away from their own healing, from their own destiny. Because your love wasn't just a romance, it was a mirror. And without it, they're not just lost, they're longing to return to the part of themselves that only existed in your presence. But here's the twist fate brought in recently. The very people they used to lean on for advice, for direction, for safety, are the ones now urging them to tell you the truth. Not because they fully understand your bond, but because even they can no longer ignore how much your absence has hollowed out their loved one. Someone, possibly a sibling or close friend, may have pulled them aside and asked, "Why are you still pretending you're okay?" And your person didn't have an answer. Because they're not okay. They haven't been okay since the day you stopped reaching out, since the day you stopped explaining yourself, since the day they finally realized they pushed away the one soul who would have stayed through every storm had they just been honest. You need to hear this. Your silence is not going unnoticed. It's speaking louder than anything you could have said. It's forcing growth. It's provoking accountability. And even though they haven't come forward yet, don't mistake that for indifference. They are coming to terms with what it means to be vulnerable again. To speak the words they've been rehearsing in their head. Words like, "I didn't know how to love you properly, but I always wanted to." Or, "I lied when I said I didn't care. I just didn't know how to hold something so sacred." They've gone from denying it to preparing for the day they'll say it out loud to you. What you're feeling in your own heart, this intuitive pull, this restlessness in your spirit, it's not your imagination. It's the divine link between your souls stirring again, not because it's meant to trap you in the past, but because it's pushing both of you into alignment, into the truth, into the sacred space where only healed hearts can meet. Right now, your person is in a silent battle between what their heart wants and what their past fears keep repeating in their mind. But this time, those inner voices that once told them to play it safe are starting to lose power because their soul has tasted what real love feels like. It has touched what it means to be understood without words, held without judgment. And now, every attempt to settle for less feels like betrayal, not just to you, but to themselves. They're beginning to question everything. Why did they push you away? Why did they allow others to influence their choices? Why did they listen to the voices outside instead of the truth they felt inside every time you looked at them? And in this very moment, there's a growing urgency they can't ignore. It's in their dreams. It's in the way music hits different. It's in the quiet spaces, between conversations, when your name suddenly echoes in their chest. And most recently, it was in the way someone in their own family finally said aloud what they had been too afraid to admit. You were never the same after them. That statement hit them harder than anything else, because it came from someone who saw through the mask, someone who witnessed the quiet sadness they carried, even while smiling, someone who knew, without needing an explanation, that you were never just another chapter. You were the plot twist that changed the story. There's a heaviness on their chest lately, a pressure, like the universe itself is telling them, "You've delayed long enough. Go tell them. Go fix what you broke." And they're listening this time. They're not brushing it off. Because deep down, they've realized that if they don't act soon, they might lose the one thing that ever made them feel truly alive. You, and the guilt is beginning to eat at them, not because they made mistakes, but because they kept making excuses after realizing their mistakes. If you've been sensing emotional waves, waves of sadness, followed by strange moments of hope, it's not random. It's the energetic thread between you tugging at your awareness. Their emotions are bleeding into your field. Their longings are reaching across the spiritual divide, hoping just maybe your heart is still open, that maybe your soul still recognizes theirs. And whether you've seen signs lately, repeating numbers, names, songs, random memories that seem to pop into your mind, it's all real. It's them. And they're being spiritually pulled toward you again, not by force, but by the truth that has never stopped echoing in their soul. You were the one. They are getting ready, slowly, painfully, but intentionally. You are the conversation they avoid but can't stop thinking about, the what if that's turned into a must. And the longer they wait, the more they're starting to understand that true love never leaves. It waits, it weathers, it transforms. Listen up, yes, if your spirit knows this message is for you. They didn't want to believe it at first, not because you weren't worthy of being believed, but because what they were feeling, what they were beginning to realize, was too powerful to accept. It scared them. It shook something in them that had remained untouched for so long, something they buried under expectations, under fear, under the heavy weight of what others had always told them to be. And now, that carefully constructed version of themselves is cracking. It's not you who's confusing them. It's their own heart, their own soul, finally waking up to what it had been calling for, even in silence. And when they see you now, they don't just see the person they tried to forget. They see the one who brought their spirit back to life. Because the truth is, ever since you stepped back, something shifted. The noise they once used to silence your memory no longer works. The distractions are dull. The excuses are cracking. And the face they tried to forget keeps appearing on strangers in the street, in lyrics of songs they never used to hear, in dreams that leave them breathless at dawn. They wake up reaching for you, even if they won't admit it. They sit in rooms full of people and still feel the ache of your absence, like a haunting they can't escape. And maybe they don't even want to escape anymore, because what if that ache is the last living part of the love they're too afraid to resurrect? And yet, beneath all their confusion, all their denial, all their delays, there is a knowing rising, a knowing that you weren't a chapter, you were the story, that what they felt with you wasn't temporary, it was truth. And now the weight of that truth is pressing against their every breath. They're beginning to understand that running from this connection is like trying to run from their own reflection. It follows them. It calls them. It shakes them. So if you've been wondering why you've felt their energy again, why suddenly their name keeps dancing across your mind, why certain signs have returned louder than ever, this is why, because on a soul level, they're moving. They're being pulled back to the moment where they left the real version of themselves. the version that only came alive with you. Let us know below if you've been feeling this shift too. And as the storm rages inside them, between the past they built and the future they fear, they are beginning to surrender, slowly, painfully, but surely. And the moment they do, they won't come back like before. This time, they'll come back with trembling hands ready to rebuild. Not what you once had, but what your souls were always meant to create. Not perfection, not performance, but peace. Real, raw, soul-altering peace. And maybe for the first time in a very long time, they're not asking how to forget you. They're asking why they ever tried. Because everything else feels hollow now. The people they tried to impress, the smiles they forced, the relationships that never held meaning beyond the surface, they all feel like shadows now. But you were the light, the warmth, the mirror, the safety. The only place where they didn't have to pretend. And that realization is breaking them open. Their family, the ones they thought would never notice, are noticing everything. The silence, the withdrawal, the way their eyes look distant even when they're in a room full of people. Someone close, maybe a sibling or a friend, said it bluntly. You're not yourself anymore. And they wanted to deny it. They wanted to laugh it off. But their throat tightened. Because they knew it was true. Because the self they've been dragging through every day since you left is only half of who they used to be when they were with you. Late at night, when no one is watching, they're scrolling through old messages they promised themselves they deleted. They're rereading your words, not just to remember you, but to remember themselves through your eyes. Because you saw the parts of them they never had the courage to see alone. You loved them in their rawness. You accepted them without performance. And now they're beginning to understand. That kind of love doesn't come twice. And the truth is, it's not just love they lost. They lost their peace, their clarity, their direction. You were the grounding force, the steady flame, the whisper in the storm. And every time they tried to convince themselves that they were fine, their own soul rebelled. Dreams of you keep pulling them out of sleep. Random songs stir something so deep it brings tears to their eyes without warning. Even their friends are starting to ask, you still think about them, don't you? And for once, they don't answer. Because even their silence is beginning to admit it. Let us know below if you've felt their pull returned lately, perhaps more strongly than ever, and there's something else they've been praying. Quietly, desperately, not in a way they've ever done before. They're not asking for anything fancy now. They're not asking to start where things ended. They're just asking for a chance, a moment, a doorway, a soft place to begin again. And they know it won't be easy. They know they may have to face your anger, your hurt, your guarded heart, but they're willing now. Because the pain of not trying is finally louder than the fear of rejection. This next part of their journey isn't about pride, it's about surrender, the kind that shakes your core and humbles your heart. They're ready to lay their ego down at your feet if it means they can hear your voice again. Not on a screen, not in a memory, but in real time. With real feeling and real forgiveness. And now, beloved, we arrive at a truth so raw, it doesn't need dramatic music or flashing lights to make your heart tremble. 'Cause you can already feel it, can't you? That tug in your soul, that quiet voice in your chest saying, they're thinking of me right now. It's not imagination. It's not coincidence. It's energy. Undeniable, unbreakable, undeniable. Because somewhere, not far from this very moment, someone is looking at their phone, their ceiling, their life, and realizing that every road forward leads back to you. No matter how many times they've tried to forget, no matter who they tried to replace you with, no matter how much time has passed, they're finally admitting to themselves that nothing compares, not even close. You were not just a chapter, you were the plot twist that redefined the entire story. You were the reason they laughed a little deeper, dreamed a little bigger, and believed a little more in love. And even if they didn't say it enough or at all, you changed them. You awakened them. You cracked their armor in the most beautiful way. So now, they're rewriting everything. They've stopped looking for distractions, they've stopped blaming fate, and they've started listening to that persistent voice that won't let them rest until they do the one thing they've been avoiding all this time, reaching out to you. And when they do, it won't be with apologies that sound rehearsed or excuses that insult your strength. It will be with truth. Raw, honest, unfiltered truth. The kind that doesn't beg. It bleeds. The kind that doesn't ask. It offers. The kind that doesn't just say, "I'm sorry." It says, "I see you now. And I never should have looked away." And when that moment comes, it's going to test your heart, because you'll have to decide not if they've changed, but if you've healed enough to listen. So before this message closes, take a deep breath, place your hand over your chest, and remember this: you are not waiting, you are preparing. You are not hoping, you are becoming. And what's ahead of you is not a return to the past. It's a resurrection of purpose, love, and truth, in divine timing, in divine order. And if you felt this in your soul, if even one line of this message brought tears to your eyes or fire to your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, tap the bell so you never miss another message meant just for you. And if you feel called, express your gratitude with a super thanks. It's not just a gesture, it's a ripple that helps this sacred message find the heart that needs it next. And most of all, comment below, share what this stirred in you. Let the angels and the universe see your light, your voice, your truth. Because here, in this space, you are never alone. May the angels surround you. May your spirit remain unshaken, and may the love that's meant for you find you again, stronger, softer, and more certain than ever before. Until next time, keep your heart open and your soul listening.